Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the prevalent situation as far as Gaza and what Israel, as far as their closest ally, US, and their veto of the UN Security Council resolution. In the wake of thousands of civilians that have, in solidarity with what's happening in Gaza at this time, we are still watching the barbarity, we are still watching the inhumanity at play at this time. A record number of civilians have died in Gaza at this time and continue to die even as we speak today. We'll be talking about the current situation in the scenario where, of course, even Israeli soldiers at this time, as I understand, a record number of Israeli soldiers have also died in this war. Will the world see sense? We've also seen Antonio Guterres talk about this and say that this is a spiraling humanitarian nightmare. But it doesn't seem like there's anything changing anytime soon as far as Israel is concerned or their closest allies. We'll be talking about the current situation there, and a little later on, of course, what's happening as far as politics is concerned on the home front. We also saw the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab talk about accountability. We'll be talking about this narrative of accountability that the PMLN is talking about. At the same time, of course, we are also looking at rumors of there being an alliance between the Istehkam Party and the PMLN being negated. What kind of a scenario will manifest overall in the upcoming elections? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Abubaker Younis Matar, who's an Arab journalist. Thank you for being with us today. We also have with us Dr. Jamil Khan, who's a former ambassador. Thank you for joining us to talk about the situation in Gaza at this time, and then we'll be joined by other guests. Matar sahab, we were, like you earlier mentioned also, this is, of course, a record number of civilians have died in Gaza, but also as far as the Israel soldiers are concerned, this is also a record number of these Israeli soldiers have also died as a result of this senseless war that we are looking at. In the wake of the veto, what kind of a situation do you think is manifesting itself? Because we are seeing a kind of stubbornness, belligerence, I think are very small words when we look at what's happening overall. We are also looking at losses as far as businesses are concerned. When we talk about certain businesses run by those Israeli-run corporate giants suffering in the wake of this kind of war at this time. What is your overall estimation of where things are headed?
You see, according to the numbers, we know now there's around 10,000 children have so far been died, and there's another maybe 1,000 still under the rebels and 1,000 have been injured. There is around 5,000 Israeli soldiers have been injured. Around 2,000 have gone disabled, and around 1,000 who've been killed so far. It seems that two things. On one side, the Palestinians understand that this is their war of freedom, so they are ready to sacrifice as much as they can, as much as it takes to get their freedom back, to get their land back, to save their land, to save their holy mosque from the Israeli and from the Jewish occupiers. So for them it is no go back anymore. For them it is a one way, either to get their land free, clear from the Jewish, or for them it is to die. This is two choices now the Palestinians are dealing with. On the other side, yes, we are seeing the Israelis themselves, the Jewish occupiers themselves, they understand that this war is having no U-turn, having no comeback. They understand now, either they eliminate the Palestinians, kids, women, old people, young people, whatever it takes, infrastructure as well, and they don't care doing this. They are also not taking any value of the international law, of the international community, because for them this is a no comeback war. It is either they stay, they remain occupying Palestine, or it will be the start of them moving out from Palestine.
But in terms of the kind of reaction that we've seen from the world, we've also seen an ally like the US not budging. This veto, and then the UN failing, the UN Security Council's failure at this time to be able to stop this veto. do you think, of course, we have talked about the ineffectiveness of the UN, but overall, is there any change at all in this kind of a scenario?
The only change is these organizations have proven that they have no value, have proven that they have never worked for real humanitarian rights. We have seen they never apply, it never applies when it comes to our right. We have seen this in Afghanistan, we have seen this in Burma, we have seen in many places. I've seen it very clearly in Palestine.
And now we are looking at what's happening in Gaza. But I'm going to go to Dr. Jamil and then I'll come back to you. Dr. Jamil, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
I think you need to unmute yourself.
Right.
Dr. Jamil, overall, in terms of what's happening at this time, as far as this veto is concerned, what is your overall take about, that if this was the hope that perhaps there we would see sense, hasn't happened. So what is there now for us to do? What kind of an effort now do you think is required when we are seeing the UN Secretary General say that this is a disaster of unparalleled proportions, and yet it doesn't seem to be having any effect at all?
Well, I think the world and the UN Security Council members and the General Assembly members, the world community, they can see that they have exhausted all the legal courts available to them. Now, what are those legal courts? In a General Assembly, there are resolutions passed already in General Assembly, and no one really cared for it. Even just about 3-4 days ago, there are resolution number 168 was passed, in which they had just talked about the refugees of the Palestinian refugees and their settlement. That was passed, but there is no with 10 opposition votes, and then there are about 3 more resolutions passed just about 3 days ago. And once the question of right of Palestinians and investigation against Israel came, only 78 votes were cast, and rest of it was either they abstained or.
Jamil Sahab, let me come back to you. Overall, Matar Sahab, there is in the kind of fighting that we are looking for. You said that as far as the Palestinians are concerned, it's about do and die for them, and it doesn't, that it's their land. They have a very clear way that they're looking at this. But in terms of the fighting that's happening, in terms of the allies that Israel has, there's a clear disparity here, right? So we are looking at mass killings on every scale.
See, the mass killing is a concept with the Jewish. For them, it is killing is the only way to get what they want. They have done this, and because of the mass killing, which the genocide they have actually attempted in Palestine in 1932 till 1948. In this period, the Israelis have actually the Haganah and the other, the gangs who actually entered Palestine under the British umbrella. They have done the same in the rest of Palestine, and at that time the Palestinians have been displaced from their land, escaping from the Haganah and the other gangs, and they have reached to Gaza with the West Bank, where they have been located since then. This is the only way they have. You see, because you are an occupier, what you will do? You have only one way. People don't leave their land only because there is some force occupied them. They will leave if there's no way else, either to live or to die. That's what Palestinians have done before in 1948, and they have left also in 1967. But now the Palestinians understand that leaving the country, leaving the land, have no solution. Nobody is helping them. The other countries are not supporting Palestinians in the correct way, which is actually the military way. We know that Jewish will never accept this political, loop which they have made it for us. We are again going to United Nations, again to International Committee, again to doing use diplomatic ways. These are not effective. And
what about displacement? We are looking at displacement on a very huge scale for the people of Gaza. About 2.3 million people have been displaced, and they're struggling to find refuge. Where are they in terms of finding refuge overall, as far as the situation in Gaza is concerned? Are they able to find safe havens? What is the situation as far as displacement is concerned?
There is no safe place in Gaza now. The Palestinians themselves, the Gazan people, understand that there's no safe place. But what they are doing, there's a place where the fight is going, especially in the north. They have moved to the south. Again, the Israelis have entered the south from Khan Younis since 2 days. They are trying their best to enter the south from Khan Younis, but they are seeing a very strong rebel from there, so that's why they are not able to enter. People are staying in the north, people are staying in the south. Civilians, you see, civilians have to move. This is something very obvious. You know, you have no weapons, you have no army to protect you, you have no international law to protect you. They will move from the fighting area. But as far as the decision of moving out from Palestine, moving out totally from Gaza, Palestinians, Gazans are trying their best not to do that, not accepting this, because for them it is to die on the land. It's much, much better, and it's honorable to die on your land, not to leave it for the Jewish.
Fair enough. Let me go to Dr. Jamil. Dr. Jamil, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Dr. Jamil, I've been discussing displacement with Abubaker, Younis, Matar Sahib here. In your opinion, the kind of displacement that we are looking at, what kind of a result are we going to see? You know, are they able to find, you know, as far as neighboring, you know, where are they going, these people?
Well, there was a paper leaked from the Israel, and Israel initially had tried to convince Egypt to allow Palestinians to enter into the territory of Sinai, and they reportedly had a plan to settle them there in a city. It's like, you know, the same history they want to repeat. Israel, that in 1948 they pushed from Palestinians from their land to this very small strip of Gaza. And now 65% of the Gaza territory they have already destroyed by bombing, and about 80% population is already displaced, and they've been pushed into the southern side, Khan Younis and onward. So they're just now so condensed, and even there they are being struck every now and then. So your question about the displacement, yes, this displacement is in a very condensed area. Never in the history we have ever seen about it. And it appears that it's going to go unabated because of this veto of the most powerful tool which has been used by the Secretary General. And that most powerful tool is invoking Article 99 of Chapter 15 of Universal United Nations Charter. And that is basically, once the Secretary General is convinced that the international peace is at risk. So this is the third or fourth time that the United Nations Secretary General has ever invoked this very powerful tool to ask for the intervention of the Security Council. And here we are, that the US had vetoed it, and this is not the first time. US has vetoed it a third time, this attempt to have a ceasefire leading to some kind of a negotiation and solution. UK, being an ally, they abstained from it. So regardless of the fact that all other members were in favor, but the one member who vetoed, so that means the international community in their General Assembly, they wanted to have a ceasefire, they wanted to have a humanitarian pause for a longer period of time leading to ceasefire. They didn't succeed. So Security Council in their 2712 resolution of the 15th of November, they had asked for a slightly longer duration of humanitarian pause, but that was also, although Security Council had passed, but it was not respected by Israel. So much so that one of the Human Rights Watch is saying that it is risking United States its complicity in the war crime. So the Human Rights Watch and other organizations have already, even Mahmoud Abbas, the president of Palestine, has said yesterday or perhaps today that the US is responsible for the bloodshed of children after veto. Martin, who is the Undersecretary General of United Nations, he says that more than about, and UNICEF, more than about 1 million children have been displaced. And you have already heard, my friend from Palestine, that how many thousands of people under the rubble, and more than 17,000 they have been killed by Israel, and still that is going on unabated. So what
But
does it
Ambassador
imply?
Saab, as far as the role of US is concerned, again, like you said, it's not the first veto, and we've seen, you know, their inability to, withdraw from Israel cause, or, you know, and the way that they continue to stand by Israel at this time. That is the core issue, because, you know, a country like US, when they can, you know, they're the only effective tool at this time to put the kind of pressure that is needed on Israel, and that is not coming. What do you think will change that, in your opinion, if anything?
All the legal course of action and effective tools have already been exhausted, as I've said. But that doesn't mean that the world should not try and moving another resolution in the Security Council, and it is going to have one impact. The public at large around the world, human rights activists and people, they have mobilized themselves in millions, maybe UK, US, and other countries. So that can assert some pressure. But if we look at what had been happening during the invasion on Iraq, again, there were so many millions of marches, but it didn't really stop the decision which the US had taken, and they went for their own foreign policy, which they had evolved at that time. Even now, their foreign policy that they have to really help Israel by hook and by crook. And in the process, even the Biden latest survey about the Democratic Party and the Biden popularity, that is left now only about 40%. So I don't know how the public pressure would work on them. If the public pressure of their own country, that is US or in UK or whatever country, so unless that public pressure is of that
Let's talk
intensity,
about
that
public
those.
pressure. Let's talk about public pressure, also about what's happening as far as businesses, Israel-run businesses, are impacted at all, in your opinion. I'll come back to you. G. Matar Saab, are they impacted, in your opinion?
You see,
we are looking at statistics that suggest that there is a definite impact.
there is, of course, a definite impact, but see, the impact is not what we want. Having a bad economy for Israelis, it's not it's not the target. The target is to stop the war, number one. Number two, which is the most important, is to remove the occupiers from the land. You see, we are away from that.
But we are talking
we
about,
are talking about.
But you don't think that these are things that will lead to the kind of pressure that we want?
Yeah, of course, but I mean, it should be more. I mean, we should ask the United Nations not only to ask Israelis to stop fight. No, we have to ask for a new resolution for dismantling the Israeli Air Force. This Air Force shouldn't be with them, because committing a war crime means you are not supposed to have this power with you. So this Air Force should be removed from them, at least. Okay. You see, because what they are doing is what?
But does UN have that kind of power?
Of course they have. If they don't have, we should have this kind of power. How many Muslim countries we are? How many neighbors of Palestinians we are? So can't we do this? If we can't, if we don't have the values, which kind of powers we have? You see, we have our representative in the United Nations. At least we have to ask. When we haven't asked so far, this army have to remove the Air Force of its action, have to be removed. You might say, oh, this is something, unacceptable, this can't be. No, it have to be. This is the only way. Having such a people with such weapons means war crime. So what is the result? What should we do? We should ask for dismantling the Air Force. This is, I think, the basic request we should do.
Let me ask Jamil Saab about this. Jamil Saab, is dismantling the Air Force, is it, what is the possibility of this, and involving the UN, the effectiveness of the UN we've been talking about?
No, if the world community and the UN Security Council is not able to even stop the war, dismantling their Air Force, that is a very good desire, and I would definitely side with that desire. But what are the forces what are the options available? There are, in the international law, it's the Security Council which is an implementing tool. And what are those implementing articles and the chapters in United Nations Charter, as it has been invoked in certain cases, whether it was Kosovo or whether it was East Timor or Rwanda and some other places. So those are chapter 6 and chapter 7. Now, if the US vetoes even the ceasefire, how could they not veto once this request is really moved in shape of the resolution? So that's the international law, and it doesn't appear that US and its allies, including UK, would agree to it. 57 countries of the OIC, well, they could assert their pressure, and like NATO, they could have formed their own alliance and a multilateral instrument they could have developed like NATO. In fact, in the time of previous president of the United States, they had created one force, but that's of no use because that was created for some other purpose, Islamic force. But if actually in its true sense and under the international law, if they create a united force or create a OIC force like African Union, like NATO, and they can really assert themselves after obtaining the Security Council resolution or going unilateral. Because in NATO, their article suggests, the relevant article, that any member country, if attacked, all other countries would deem that that attack has been directed to them and they can react. So the Muslim countries never tried in that direction. It's true what my brother Matar is saying, that it's their right of the Palestinian. Like once the right of the East Timoris could be recognized under the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 2649, that they fought for 25 years and they got their independence under that. Once the Chapter 6 and Chapter 7 was invoked of the United Nations Charter, then why couldn't the same thing happen in Palestine or, for that matter, Kashmir? Because the powerful countries and countries, those who have say in the Security Council, means the veto countries, the three countries normally they not side with Palestine or Israel, Palestine or Kashmir for that matter. Only two countries, China and Russia, sometimes they abstain and sometimes they do side.
I
So,
understand.
so therefore,
Right, of course. Dr. Jamil, unfortunately, this is all the time that we have for this segment. Thank you so much for your very valuable input. Thank you for joining us, Abubaker, Younis, Matar. Thank you for being with us. We'll be taking a short break, after which we'll come back to talk about politics at this time, as far as alliances at this time are concerned, what is actually happening, what rumors which are now being denied as far as these alliances are concerned, what is real, what is just circumspection, all of that today a little later on. Please stay with us. Welcome back. We have with us Agha, Iqrar, Haroon, who's a senior analyst. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, who's a political analyst, to talk about what's happening on the home front as far as politics is concerned. Agha Sahab, there is now, we are looking at, no confirmation of any kind of alliance as far as the PMLN and the SECAM party is concerned. Is that correct?
Yes, but if you remember in your show, we talked about this possibility almost a month ago or so. And I think so alliance may not be announced, but seat-to-seat adjustment would be done.
What we've seen with PMLQ as far as the Chaudhry Shujaat group is concerned, we've also seen that there, or what?
Exactly, in Istikam party also and with the PMLQ also. And if you remember, I was of the view that basically it would be a, PMLN would give some of its share to Istikam party, and PMLQ was not in my mind. This is a new development for me. So technically speaking,
but what do you think what is the gain there as far as the PMLQ is concerned? It's not, they don't have a huge number of seats. It's about 2 or 3 seats, as I understand.
I agree with you, but Mia Nawaz Sharif wants to send a message that everybody is with him. This is more important.
And also that everybody is, this is, welcome as far as, and he doesn't believe in politics of vengeance, so to speak. But then there is accountability, which is being talked about now.
There are many things I can't understand.
Right.
Sometimes Mia Saab said no accountability, Now today he was saying that there should be an accountability. When he came in Pakistan, he was not talking about mujhe kyun nikala. Now today he was talking about mujhe kyun nikala in 2013. And
so you think that there is a change of narrative as far as the PM?
I think, I mean, with the passage of time, when he would go into electioning, his stance would be very clear, because these elections, this is what I believe.
Because is it, I also want to take Dr. Niaz's view on this, but do you think it's also about the fact that now that we're getting closer to the elections, things are heating up? We are also looking at Bilawal Bhutto Zardari now, talking about a fourth time being, now saying that, calling the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab as, PM from Jati Umrah. There's clearly things seem to be heating up in that direction. There's now a back and forth exchange, perhaps. Is that true in your opinion? Is that the way the things
basically
are up?
Politics is a division. I mean, you have to be best of the best when you are in politics, otherwise you won't vote me. But as we were talking about the Miyasa politics, I think he understands, even having all electables with him, he must have a narrative, because this election 2024 are not a simple election of electables. Electables.
But isn't let me take Dr. Niaz also on this. But Dr. Niaz, isn't the narrative clear as far as the PMLN is concerned? They're saying that they did massive amount of work, as I understand. This is what the PMLN is saying. Under the leadership of the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif Saab, they made significant inroads into the progress of Pakistan. That is the one thing that they're saying. The second thing that they're saying is they want to go back to that old Pakistan, which was on the path to that prosperity. Then they're talking about the fact that things were fabricated, the cases were fabricated, and there is a lot of evidence to the effect, in the sense that we are looking at them the way that they're falling now, and the way that the accountability process is clearly exposing the lacunas within it. So those two things are quite clear for everyone. But is there now a change as a mujhe kyun nikala, or the narrative that was earlier given by the PMLN? Are we going back to that? What do you think?
Well, I think PMLN hasn't abandoned it completely, but they've made it quite vague. They are not obviously going to name any current establishment figure. And even with, say the last army chief, etc., they're going to be a bit vague about it. What you see now is, a lot of emphasis on, the previous judges, which obviously, the current establishment may not mind so much, and even the current Chief Justice of the Supreme Court may not mind that much. But
isn't the judicial process, and hasn't the judicial process, we start with NAB and go right to the Supreme Court, been exposed in a very unsavory light? Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, there is the thing that, he is getting a lot of relief, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, but then it's also true, that those cases were all, bogus, and, wrong judgments, verdicts were given, the evidence was weak, and he suffered a lot because of that. He was in jail.
Those were, if those cases were wrong, if they were engineered, then this relief has to be acknowledged as doing right or wrong. Isn't that true? I'm going to take Agha Saab on this. Isn't that true, Agha Saab?
I agree with you, but this is not a matter of only the, I mean, he's not talking about the courts now. Today he was very clear. He talked about 1993 and particularly 1999. So 1999, then he talked about Kargil issue. When you are talking about 1999 and you are talking about the Kargil issue, basically you are not talking about anything about, judiciary or the NAB. You are talking about someone else. So cases were fabricated. I agree with you. And now cases had, actually they were unfounded. But it's not a matter of cases. The matter is, he was sent home. Who did it? So this is a question. He again today, he took this question at the front.
But isn't that something that Bilawal Bhutto also is alluding to?
Yeah.
He also talked about the fact that, bringing people. I mean, this is a common thread, is it not? You know, bringing people, eliminating them. So there is, it's going towards the same thing, right?
He's claiming for bringing, and Mia Saab is claiming for sending. So they are two different things. And Bilawal Bhutto today.
But he talked about 2/3.
Exactly in Tamir Gira. He mentioned this. He claimed he was, he was granted a power thrice, and thrice he had a problem with those. He claimed it to those who, gave him power, and then they snatched away the power from him. So this is the narrative of.
So that is a common thread between the major political parties at this time.
Yes.
Niaz Saab, what are the ramifications of this thread, in your opinion, in the common discourse between the main leadership of the two main political parties at this time?
Well, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with, Mr. Nawaz Sharif getting relief, but obviously PPP is going to make an issue out of it. But the other issue is that, the same relief should then also be given to the PTI people, because their cases also seem, quite dubious. And then the other issue is, the constant, flow of electable towards PMLN. I think that's what worries PPP much more. They were hoping that it would be more evenly divided between PPP and PMLN.
But isn't that, I mean, if where the electables choose to go, isn't that traditionally been something that, where they feel they're likely to get the most votes, or where the tide is, or where, things are headed generally, where the trend is, so to speak, is it, and that is what's happening at this time, no?
Well, but on what basis? The PMLN performance in the last 16 months was quite poor, right? So logic dictates that they should be running away from that party. But if they are still going in that direction, and these are all parties which, go by,
I think PMLN would debate this. I mean, as far as their performance is concerned, it was a grand alliance, and of course PPP was part of that that alliance. I mean, other than one political party, we saw all political parties together, and for them it was about that challenge, or that time that they had to steer the country in the right direction, which is what was said at the time.
Yeah, but still, the party in charge was PMLN, the Prime Minister belonged to it, and then the all-important Finance Ministry belonged to the PMLN. And the main problems, the complaints are related to the economy, which was in the hands of PMLN. So what this shows is that, a lot of parties which swing back according to the moods of the powerful forces are going towards the PMLN, and PPP doesn't like that. It would have hoped that, more people from Balochistan, from KP, from southern Punjab would flow towards it, but that hasn't happened.
So perhaps it's too much blame in that direction, and it's not, maybe it's I don't know, it's naive of me to ask, but Iqrar Saab, maybe it is a natural process then.
Yes, this is politics. Politics is a division. You have to contest politics by claiming or blaming something against me. Otherwise, why should A or B vote you? So this is a part and parcel of politics, particularly a parliamentarian kind of politics.
If you're also looking at PPP at this time with the leadership, as far as Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is concerned, he's stepping away from the fact that his party has been in power, at least again.
Exactly.
So he's choosing the narrative of being a first timer versus somebody who's heading a political party that has in fact been in power for and is comprising of the same people which have been in power for about as much times as he's blaming the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif for.
I agree with you. Everybody was part and parcel of that PDM government.
No, so even without the PDM government, the PPP has been in power.
But if you talk about in federation, it was long ago. It was almost 10 years ago. And People's Party, when was in power in federation, they gave 18th Amendment to the country, a complete new rules for divisible pool, providing more, you can say, resources to provinces, and that goes in their favor. After that, this was never happened. And if you talk about the democracy, they provided democracy to the grassroots level through this local bodies election. So, look, People's Party had never talked about the prosperity of the country. They more talked about the parliamentarian system, the constitution, the human rights, and if you talk, if this is their, I mean, health.
They have their own. So as far as the PPP is concerned, they have their own purview. They have their own. You know, they will sell whatever to the people.
Yes, and they had so many things to sell actually. The 18th Amendment, the new rules for division.
And as far as the PMLN is concerned, they of course maintain that the progress as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as business is concerned,
of construction,
and we've seen, they are talking about businesses and as far as economy and that side of things.
But these last 16 months, with a one stroke, this total you can say burden over public was 30% increase in establishment charges.
But
just imagine a country who was saying that we are, avoiding default. At the same time, the then government increased 30% establishment charges.
They are saying that, as far as the political parties of that time, they say, and this is not just the PMLN, it is the PPP
the PDM government.
The PDM government as a whole, and I'm going to take Niaz Sahab on this also, overall are saying that it is all, they were stemming the flow as, of blood, they were stemming the blood that was as far as, from an organ and the way that things were at that time, the situation was very bad. So it was critical and that was, it was at that time essential to take these measures, whatever was done.
It was critical. At the same time, this PDM government gave an extra burden of 30% establishment charges on the government, on the people.
But they're not taking ownership of that, of course.
They should, everybody, including the Pakistan People's Party, because this was a part and parcel of that government.
Niaz Sahab, as far as this alliance is concerned, of course, at this time we don't know. We are hearing yes, no. There is no clarity in terms of what's happening as far as the PMLN and the Istehkam party is concerned. What is your view of what will eventually transpire between these two political parties as far as seat adjustment is concerned, or as far as, there being some sort of what can one say, an alliance?
Yeah, well, I think there were some indications today. There was a meeting yesterday between Mr. Jahangir Tareen and Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, after which, some word did come out that a committee is being formed for seat adjustment. But then there was, one statement from Mr. Aleem Khan denying that. But I think that's part and parcel of politics. Eventually, I think these parties will come together. And then, so you see this huge alliance, in Balochistan, 4 or 5 parties with PMLN, and Sindh 4 or 5 parties with PMLN, South Punjab IPP, same in KP, I think JUI is already there, and Mr. Pervez Khattak's party might also come. So you can see a huge flow towards PMLN, which is its strength in the short term, but then it's also its vulnerability, because it means that its core region is now only north and central Punjab. Everywhere else it's dependent on other parties, and that too fickle parties which move very quickly in droves together at some ishara from the right quarter. So it will make the PMLN very vulnerable in the long run, even if all these parties allow it to win the election in the long run. The only wild card is what will happen to PPP. Will it also eventually join this alliance, which is quite possible. Because once the dust settles and the elections are over.
But then you'll be looking at the same kind of alliance that we saw in the last 16 months.
Bigger than the last time, because now you'll have Jahangir Tareen, the Pervez Khattak group, and so on. So it will be bigger than last time. But even being bigger than last time, would it have a bigger majority? That remains to be seen. It might.
But the PMLN is talking, of simple majority, also of 2/3 majority. Do you think that's just election talk, or do you think that there is perhaps they're making moves to garner that kind of support?
Well, 2/3 being, completely, steamrolling PTI, and that's again the other wild card, how the PTI is going to do despite all the crackdown on it, the hurdles being created in its way to participate fully. Now the questions about its party elections, which are not being raised against any other party. But if the masses are angry enough and they still go and vote for it, then it might not win the elections, but at least deprive the PMLN and its alliance of the 2/3 majority that they're looking for.
But as far as, let me come back to you. There is, Agha Sahab, as far as the popularity graph is concerned, there have been various surveys, and that all different parties are claiming, different surveys to say that where is the popularity and how is the popularity. But the situation right now, it seems, is largely unclear. Isn't that true? Even as far as the PTI is concerned, I mean, their popularity and what's happened after May 9th, and how people are looking at it as far as the young voter is concerned, it may not be, the situation may have changed drastically.
Look, basically, May 9 changed so many things in Pakistan, including the fate of PTI. Today, PTI is popular or not popular, I cannot comment. I'm not qualified. And secondly, I do not accept or believe in any survey, because survey data sample is very limited. And first, unfortunately, in Pakistan, they first target the data collection area according to the results they wish to desire and wish to get out of this data. So I don't go for.
And there is a certain percentage that will depend on what happens on the day of the elections.
No, I'm coming to this. The PTI problem is PTI has no hierarchy now. It has lost hierarchical system in the party. Election day, polling day is very important. You need to have very consolidated frameworks, resources behind you for one day only. So that is not with the PTI, because PTI investors are no more there.
The candidates themselves and the kind of guidance they will need.
Even they collect lawyers as a candidate.
And electables, the phenomena of electables also, it doesn't seem to be working at this time for them. So
exactly. And secondly, you can say in urban areas, this is very easy to contest election. But if you go to rural areas, if one constituency has, for example, 120 polling stations and they are spread over the whole area, you need very huge resources.
You need a lot of resources. You need a lot of
right now, resources not with the PTI. They don't have.
So we don't know. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Agha Sahab, thank you so much for joining us today. Dr. Niaz Murtaza, thank you for being with us today. Overall, as far as the situation stands today, it's unclear where things are headed. But certainly, there are attempts as far as alliances are concerned, or estate adjustments are concerned. Things will become clearer. What is clear is that we have a huge number of the young voter, and of course we look at the major political parties at this time, perhaps looking at what will appeal to that young voter. Whether it's the fact that there should be accountability, or whether it's the fact that there should be given a chance because they haven't been given one before. All of these are the kind of narratives that are perhaps targeted towards that voter, that young voter that is now going to be participating in these elections. Let's see what happens overall. Of course, things will become clearer, closer, as we get closer to the elections. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.